right, welcome back, YouTube. If you are watching this video, then you know that there's a lot of capital rushing into crypto. This morning, Bitcoin just crossed across $70,000. We're close to getting this signal on Dogecoin. We've already gotten it on Bitcoin, I believe, and we should have it now on total market cap. I didn't look at it beforehand. I wanted to look at everything live with you guys. So we're going to get into that, get some projections for this week, get some time frames narrowed down. And should be a really interesting week here as we push higher and get some retest here at some of these levels. We're going to get a retest for Dogecoin, breaking out to go to that 22-cent range. Remember, this leg's target is around 45. We're going to get a retest for Bitcoin probably today or tomorrow to see how it fares against its all-time high. So this is going to be a really good week here, and it's going to be very telling as far as for the time frame that we're going to have these breakouts, and also how strong this next leg is going to be. So let's get into it. Right now for Doge, we are about, I'll say it's anywhere, depending on how strong, where this candle closes, we're somewhere between 24 and 72 hours to getting this golden cross. This golden cross here is that we're looking at is going to be the 14 crossing the 72, 14 the yellow line, 72 the orange. Just in case this is your first video, the reason we're tracking this is a major indicator for price movement that we've seen back here in February. This gave us the signal for that infamous run that we had from 8 cents to around 20 cents, and ultimately retesting around 22.8 roughly. So we're tracking this to see where this next leg is going to be. We did have about somewhere between, we had a sideways movement of around 6 days though, leading up to that cross, but ultimately that cross was right on the money, giving us the signal of the liquidity that was about to come into the market. So we are close to having a repeat here of this signal. So the question is, how strong is this movement going to be? If we see some similar price action to what we got back in February, this will put us somewhere between 39 and 45 for this leg. Obviously, it can always do more if we can kind of get an idea of how strong this next leg is going to be, and that's going to help us narrow the projections down to what this market is ultimately going to be. Kind of get a pressure gauge, really. And this is going to be very telling. We're going to do this across the board with Bitcoin, total market cap, and really get an idea of some things to monitor going forward for the market here. So ultimately, we're setting up good. We're riding the 72-day, and honestly, as long as we're above it, green or red, it's going to raise this 14-day, right? So we're literally about a day or so from having this cross here and getting the actual confirmation. Obviously, if we get like a bigger candle today, then that'll certainly set us up to get there faster, or even have a more aggressive angle crossing the 72. One thing we talked about in our last video is the fact that in this range, from where we are now to around like that 18-cent mark to the 20-cent mark, or even this like aggressive run here between like 20 and 22, it's actually gap territory. Now, gaps normally fill to the upside or to the downside. Obviously, this is going to be to the upside, but you can see evidence of this here to the upside. And then we had some price action up here. We pushed down and closed at around 18, but that same day we were at 20.8. So this is gaps filling here. Even if you see it from like around this 19 mark up to around that 22.8, and these larger candles, that's typically what I mean by the gap. So the gaps means that it's a large amount of liquidity that can come in and a large amount of liquidity that can come out. So you're going to get a larger candle here versus the smaller candles that we're seeing here. So the closer we get to this range, and once we start closing in here, it's likely we're going to see a larger volume of capital coming in, kind of like what's happening right now with Bitcoin, that pushes the coin up to retest relatively quickly. So that's something you have to kind of realize about crypto. Everything moves slow until it doesn't. And then you'll have like this major thing. You're starting to get notifications from your whatever brokerages you're on, Coinbase, Robinhood, whatever. Hey, you know, this asset's up such and such percent over the last hour. And that's when you start seeing a lot of movement relatively quickly. So we are on the cusp of some larger candles here historically. And by what I mean by on the cusp, I mean so far this cycle, it's happened 100%, right? April 12th, we got these large candles when we were in this range. Even here, where we were trying to get the test for the bottom to ultimately retest back up at around that 20 cent range. If you look at the total, excuse me, the total volume of where we were closing at, we were bouncing somewhere between 16 and the 18 mark, the high 18s, right? So we're still jumping around 2 cents a day, even on the where we're trying to retest, ultimately trying to go back to around that 22 cent mark. So just kind of prepare for a higher range of volume in the next few days. So let's take a look here at shorts really quickly before we go over and confirm this on some other charts. Yeah, shorts are doing nothing, 0% on the day. See, and again, this is what I mean by they when you're confirming price action to the upside. I'm not saying they've learned, because shorts are always going to be interested in making money off of an asset going down in value, but you have to. This is something to keep an eye on, right? You've gotten wrecked several times here in the last few months by when Dogecoin gets some price action or is setting up for a major move, and they think that it's typically going to be like fluff and it's not going to go anywhere, and they've gotten absolutely destroyed. So they have a little bit more respect for these signals and these movements now. So you're seeing they're still riding around the 200-day, but this little tiny green speck you see down here is the current day shorts. No increase, decrease from previous days, but it's just sitting there. So when you see the capital coming into the market, previously they'd say, okay, well, Doge is typically going to get some allocation of institutional money. Let's go ahead and get in front of that. They are not doing that now. They are resting here and doing the wait and see approach. So that is a good sign here that aligns with some of the things that we're seeing. Let's take a look here at Bitcoin. Obviously, we got that golden cross a few days ago with Bitcoin, and now we are positioning ourselves to do a lighter retest, right? So the biggest retest we can do now is around that 71,000 mark. Obviously, the big one is going to be up here around that 74, 70, and the high 73s. That's going to be very telling. But right now, we need to, if we're talking about how serious breakout and ascending the market into the next leg, it's going to be, we're going to need around $1,000 in additional capital into Bitcoin. So we've had that test here at 71.8, and we came down, used the 1472 kind of as a support. And so now we're getting that capital running in. So we obviously have to kind of see how this works out over the day, and ultimately where this candle closes, so we can report on that later today. But that'll certainly give us an idea of what to expect going into the market. So that if you're in Bitcoin or Doge or both, you've got notifications this morning saying, hey, the market's been pushing higher. So that is really good. Ultimately, let's see, as far as for time frames, and see, this is another good sign. Shorts are leaving Bitcoin, right? So now we have this push up for price action, and you would say, hey, if shorts are believing this is an artificial pump, or they believe that this is not going to last, it's not going to be sustainable, they would be increasing positions, or at least holding their current positions. But what are they doing? They are running, right? Shorts are down 19.83% on the day. So that's letting me know that they believe that this asset can still push ultimately higher, and they don't want to be upside down it. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to re-enter, but so they can just re-enter at 74,000 or 75,000, but they don't want to be in that position where it does run and retest 74,000 and they're already negative, $3,000 against their assets. So now they're going to have to wait for it to fall just that much. So you have to kind of consider that they are basically, in a nutshell, if that doesn't make sense to you, they are expecting a push to the upside here to the point where it threatens their investment, and they are coming out of it. So that's confirming to what we're seeing here as far as for this push here in the next 24 to 72 hours. That's very good. We'll see if it comes back down to the 14, because over the last day or so, they kind of etched up above it, but now they are coming out. And this kind of lets you know, because they've been not aggressively, but they've been increasing their position 1, 2, 3, 4 over the last 5 days, right? And now the asset's going higher. They don't want to be upside down. They don't want to have one of these scenarios where they get wrecked, like back here in March and April. So they are taking the precaution here to say, hey, just in case this is the big one, let's just go ahead and get out here and kind of protect ourselves, which is smart, right? You don't want to be stepping in front of a freight train here and end up getting wrecked because you don't know when that next leg is going to break out. It's not a question of if, it's only a matter of when. So, and that's some of the things that we're trying to narrow down here. So let's take a look here. I'm going to go to coin market cap and get a look here at the overall capital coming into the market. We have Bitcoin 70,409, 23 billion in the last 24 hours in volume, right? So Tether is still red. Interesting, because I know it's a stable, but still it's interesting. Okay. Solana's red on the 7-day. And what's really been interesting is it's technically going against. I wonder if they've changed their mind on that, because it's been having some divergence from, if you guys watch some of our older videos, we're talking about the importance of the institutional capital allocation, right? And one of the things we like to look at is these current trends over here, and to make sure that they are, at least, if they don't have an individual catalyst that's driving it to be more aggressive or less aggressive, that kind of can cause a sell-off or something like that, they typically should chart very similar patterns, right? Obviously, Ethereum is on a tear right now. It has its own individual catalyst, and people are getting very bullish on it with the talk of Ethereum, the 10,000 is coming back. So Ethereum is being even more aggressive than Bitcoin, right? Which is fine. You know, it's an individual catalyst. That's no different than X payments coming out for Dogecoin, and then it starts shooting up. You know, Bitcoin is not supposed to run off of that because it's not a Bitcoin catalyst. So this is fine. But when you start to see this extreme divergence here, you know, something's brewing, right? This reminds us when we were talking about Cardano before it fell to number 10. I was saying, hey, Cardano's threatening to have this big fall, and literally like 2 weeks later it did. But just kind of keep an eye on that, right? Doge is following a similar pattern. Obviously, XRP is on point. Toncoin is having this, certainly a divergence, but it's recovering somewhat now. We'll see if it turns green. Let's see. Cardano is still flatlining. Cardano's probably going to drop out of the top 10. I've said this like a few months ago, but I firmly believe Cardano is on its way out of the top 10. I don't know if it's going to come back, but even the volume here, like 283, this is lackluster volume for this asset here. More than Toncoin, but I don't know. For Cardano, it should be getting some more transactional volume than that. Doge here, over 1 billion, more than XRP. But, you know, I believe we're going to jump XRP again, so I'm not concerned about that. But we'll see where this divergence goes, and where, I know these candles are moving relatively, this has been relatively recent movement. So we'll see where today ends up. I'll probably do a video later today to kind of see where the dust settles at. But as of right now, we are on track to have that run to 22 cent, that retest this week for Dogecoin. And we should get a test either at the 71 or the 74 for Bitcoin sometime this week here, to see, you know, if we're going to be rejected or if we are starting that ascension to the next leg. So it's going to be a very telling week. I'll make sure I do report on things, we'll cover it, and we'll ultimately see how strong this next leg is going to be, because ultimately this is going to be one of the pressure tests that we use to see where this market, so kind of get some projections. No one knows for sure, but we get some projections on where this market is going to be, where the next leg, and potentially getting an idea of what that blow off top is going to look like. So if you found value in this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're going to try and beat Bitcoin to 100,000 by getting 100,000 subscribers first. You can help with that with a +1 by hitting that subscribe button. I'll greatly appreciate it. Leave me a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.